Cause usually she call, but this time my baby done. Send me an email.
You want mine? Bum bum.
Send me an email. Welcome back to the
We're having fun today, guys.
Show. We are having a lot of fun today. This is the highest energy, just so you know out there. Probably, if you are listening to our show for the first time or you have for a while, this is the highest energy show we've had so far. So kudos to everybody here. Stephanie, Melissa, Chelsea, John, and myself.
Jason.
Obviously,
Head on the back. Welcome back to the Stockwell Roche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell, Remax Results.
I'm John Van Hall, Remax Results.
And we have Stephanie Havel here with Wells Fargo, Chelsea Sondelon with Team Stockwell, and Melissa DeLay, who's the Message Maven. And on the last segment, we talked a little bit about what Melissa does with her company, True Perception, but also some key things like ghost messages, sending out ghost messages, and also what the problem might be with communication. And if you're looking for the easy target of, well, it's the communication. The problem is now we don't pick up the phone, we text and we email. Mm-hmm. That is not the problem. That still is a problem. So Melissa will get into more on that. But just a quick backstory. I was at a Chamber of Commerce lunch in Edina, and Melissa was the guest speaker there to a lot of business people in Edina there that go to that event. And she spoke, and I'm sitting there. And I said, I know her. You know how when you meet someone or you see someone and you say, gosh, I know them somewhere. I've seen them. I just, so I'm sitting there and I go on Facebook right away and I type in her name on Facebook.
And he realized we were not friends.
And we were not friends on Facebook. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. No, I was kidding.
How does she not know me?
So, and then I'm looking at, so if you do that with anybody, you'll find some mutual friends most likely. So we have mutual friends. I don't know how many there were, but one of them is a colleague of mine in real estate, George Farkas. And I said, George Farkas, it's still not clicking. So after she's done talking, I run up kind of as fast as I can because I knew there's going to be a crowd of people waiting to talk to her. And I run up and I said, Melissa, and I was first there. I got there and I started talking with her and I said, hey, I know you, which I'm sure she hears all the time. It's not a pickup line.
I'm pretty popular.
But I know you. And we started talking. I said, I don't know where. And I said, George Farkas. How do you know George Farkas? And then she says, we go to the same church in Shoreview called, what's it called again?
North Heights.
North Heights Church in Shoreview. And I'm like, the only time I've been to that church is when my wife and I, before we were married, we went to an Alpha program called Alpha. And George invited us to that program. And lo and behold, we had small groups breaking out about 7 or 8 people. And Melissa was in our small group at that time.
I was.
7,
Wow.
had to be
It's
7 years ago.
a small world, ladies
Awesome
and
story.
gentlemen. Yeah.
And her content at that chamber meeting was so powerful, so amazing. I immediately tried to schedule a lunch with her or a coffee with her to see how I could bring her into my office for my team and the company to say, hey, this is stuff that really will impact you in your everyday life, in your business life, and real estate life for us, and then in any other person's relationship and business life.
And the best thing about the way Jason did that was he initially built rapport with me, and we talked about this earlier today when I was meeting with his team, that now this long line of people behind me, they could wait all day because I'm now friends with Jason. I remember him. He's established that rapport. He's built some credibility. And so now all of my attention is on him, and it's not on anybody else that's standing in line.
Because I said George Farkas, and you know George really well. So before we even put together the whole sequence of how we knew each other, but anyway, it was awesome.
Yeah, so it was a great communication strategy that Jason used to get some time with me and now have me working and helping with his
So
team.
basically pushing, shoving to get ahead of
That's
the line.
right. I didn't know that he dove over the other people. I hadn't heard that part of the
Muscle
story.
his way in.
Well, it was in Edina, and the people, they weren't very fast, so I can kind of weasel my way in. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, because they're from Edina. Every day I need attention.
Oh, here we go.
Anyway, I was going to ask you, Melissa, what, as far as so the Message Maven, and where did you learn this? I mean, are you a communications major, or how do you become the expert on this subject?
Yeah, so I have my master's degree in organizational communication. So that's basically what makes the connection between a boss and an employee tick. How do they communicate? And I spent 4 years in college studying that. I got my master's degree in communication as well. And when I got out into the job market, I was just thrown into a circus of poor communicators. It was like a case study in what not to do. I saw leader after leader communicating in a way that was counterintuitive to what I had learned. And so I just started using everybody, bless their hearts, as little lab rats in a science experiment, and someone would say, oh, nobody replied to my email, or nobody came to my meeting, or I can't believe they didn't sign the contract. And I would just pop up and say, well, let me see your communication. Did you send an email? Did you talk to them? And in my early days, and I've been doing this for 17 years now, in the beginning, I would make a recommendation, and they would come back and say, it worked. And in my mind, I'd be like, really? Okay. But on the front, I said, absolutely. Of course it did. Now here's what you do next. And I just was keeping track of what was working and what wasn't working. So I'm part educated, part naturally gifted in this area. I actually move towards a crisis. I'm very interested in conflict and things that are going wrong because I have this knack for evening it out and diffusing the situation. So part education, part sort of street smarts, and then I believe also just a little bit.
Well, and I would think, even not a corporate world, but, in a personal world. I mean, either, when you're married, how to communicate with your spouse. And, we were talking a little bit off the, being single and, communicating and what kind of presence are you giving online when you're, communicating back and forth online. Am I typing up the right message? Are they going to understand my personality or what? Do you talk about that as well? Or
well, there's a lot of things in that as far as what Melissa went over, but also as far as every single person. What I was trying to say, or what I'm thinking of, is every single person has something that they're doing wrong, either on their Facebook or LinkedIn.
Bless their heart. Bless their heart.
And I want to give a shout out to the YouTube. So Barry White shooting our YouTube here, but Melissa, if you want to check her out, go on YouTube. She said she runs towards conflict.
I do.
Not many people you hear say that.
Just
Not at all. Most of us run desperately away from conflict. So if you look at Melissa, you'll see that she doesn't look like the type of person that runs towards conflict either. So I think of like an MMA fighter or something.
Are you speaking of my size, my stature? So I'm 5'1", about 100.
Are we getting into stereotypes here?
So would we go to Melissa DeLay to find you on YouTube?
You would go to True Perception, TRU, and then perception is singular.com. And my video blog that I do along with a written blog is called Spill the Truth. And you're right that the majority of people are making the same missteps over and over again. And email is not our enemy. Text messaging is not our enemy. What we struggle with is word choice. So if you take away tone and you take away body language and you take away hair and eye contact, all you're left with is word choice. And so you have to be very careful in how you choose your words. Avoid all sorts of emotionally charged words like failure or a phrase like axe to grind or anything that would rise up in another person some kind of emotion. Even, and I know we've just come away from Valentine's Day, but even a word like love is emotionally charged, even though it's positive. The opposite of it is hate. And these stir up in people emotions that now we have to undo.
Oh my gosh, I'm blown away because if anybody is on Facebook, which a lot of the world is, if you go on Facebook and you look at any topic and you look at a thread, it could be about sports, could be about politics, could be about business, anything. If you follow the thread, it does not take long before there's emotionally charged words being thrown out immediately.
Right.
And then that causes a retaliation with more emotionally charged words and more, and it gets nasty.
Well, depending
quickly.
on, I'm a big social media. I have like 4,600 friends.
Woo!
I know it's cray.
Can I be your friend?
It's
I need a few more.
but what was interesting is when the Vikings lost that game, and I was so just unbelievable.
That's emotionally charged. Thank you for bringing that up.
I had put a quote on there just saying I was so disappointed. Okay, I don't personally know 4,600 people, but people that I didn't even know on Facebook that were my friends were commenting on this. I'm like, what? Because it evoked such an emotion in them, what I wrote and the whole thing.
And I might say this, sorry for butting in, but some people probably like the emotionally charged stuff, so they put stuff on Facebook that draws the emotion.
They
right?
look for it.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. Some people that would even make comments on my page, like, who are you? Oh my gosh. And you're commenting on my, you know what I mean? But they're,
Well, and
'Cause they wanna
it's
invoke
sort
that.
of yes and no. I think we have personality defects in the world. In general, all of
I
us
know a few
have
people
them.
that have them, yeah.
Right? All of us have them, but we have them in varying degrees.
Everybody
And-
except ourselves. Right. I mean, that's how
No,
everyone at
trust
the
me.
table.
I have a personality defect, and I could talk about it all day. But we can learn how to monitor them if we're emotionally healthy and if we're balanced. Now, we are in a society now where we have more freedom to speak our minds than we ever had before. That feels like a good thing, but the reason that it's so harmful is because we aren't seeing the effect that our words might have, and we're hiding in a little bit of a way behind cyberspace. You know, I can just type a message and it's going to go out, and I don't have to see the pain in another person's eyes when they read that message. And so because of that, because I don't have that consequence, I can very easily send it off. And then it could be damaging. In fact, I know that it's damaging that person's reputation. And the other thing is, we think that we can communicate socially one way and then turn around in a business setting and be a bit more professional. The trouble with that is I want you to practice while times are good so that everything rolls off your tongue in the right way when times are tough. So if times are good, nobody's attacking you, nobody's coming at you, you're just making a message. Be positive or neutral in that scenario so that you can be positive and neutral when somebody comes and calls your character into question.
Right.
When somebody tells you you don't know the answer to something, when somebody says you're too small and tiny to run towards conflict, and that's where we're running into trouble because we're mixing. It used to be there was corporate communication and there's personal communication. We used to have these lines that were super blurred. But they don't even exist anymore.
they're
Yeah, they don't
crossing.
even exist
Wow.
anymore.
So we'll be back with more with Melissa DeLay on communication and email etiquette and all kinds of other things. So hope you're enjoying it. We'll be back soon.